of India. I mean, this is a government claim, and maybe more than 90 districts are affected by Maoists, and 1/3 states of the country, of the 28 states in the country, at least 9 states are affected by the Maoist violence. It's a quite huge problem. I mean, it's not a very simple problem of the Adivasis fighting with the state or Maoists supporting the tribals. But it's a big challenge to the entire, the authority of the state. So how you address, how you separate the Maoists of India from the Maoists of Nepal? And Maoists are very much part of the process which is there to write a constitution. And if that process fails, and Maoists decide to go back to the forest and use the same tactics, combatants, which they have not given up. The combatants have not joined the mainstream. They have not been dispossessed of the lands and properties they had acquired through violent means. How it affects the whole ideology of Maoism, as well as the ideology you talked about, the tribals looking for Adivasiyat and the Nepalis looking for the identity which they own, nurtured for centuries. Now I request Pradeep Giriji. I don't know if I'm putting up the things in right perspective, but whatever I could listen to Narendraji, and having understood while in Nepal about the problem of Nepal, and through my interactions, regular interaction with Vijay Pratap, he takes a lot of interest in the issue of Nepal. Pradeep Giriji is the most right person to throw some light on the topic, the Nepal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In fact, only some time back, 20 minutes back, I was a little confused. So a kind of invitation that was given to me to come and speak has rather an interesting background. Some of us have formed a kind of mutual admiration society. On the India side, Ritu Priya and Vijay Pratap are members of the society, and so am I back in Nepal, from my side for them. So Vijay Pratap rang me up yesterday evening and told me, well, Pradeep, why don't you come and tell me something about what's latest in Nepal? And I have come to them even 2 days back, so maybe I am most up to date than anybody here, being again a member of Constituent Assembly too. But then I do not say no to Vijay Pratap ji, because Vijay Pratap ji belongs to that fast disappearing species, tribe of Indian political activists, who we should preserve, but I don't think can preserve. Once a species is on the road to extinction or disappearance, no artificial attempt can preserve such creatures. Well, there used to be a time when a man of the stature of Jayaprakash Narayan, Lohiya, and even Nehruji, even when he was Prime Minister, not to mention Gandhi. Gandhi was, of course, very human, he belonged to no country, no race. They used to take very keen interest, personal interest, political interest in the affairs of Nepal. But ever since Chandrasekharji passed away, I can see General Sagar in front of me, we very often meet in various seminars. A current general or a former general may be taking some interest in Nepal. Many people from various institutions, security institutions, take very keen interest every day in Nepal. But I have not found many political persons, or for that matter, if I may be excluded, even serious and senior journalists, taking and putting the kind of questions I have to put by Mr. Chairman right now. So this makes my task rather difficult, as well as easy. Some time back I was slightly confused what to say there. what's the agenda, and what I had been asked by my dear friend Vijay Pratap, whom I can't say no. But now, our chairperson, Mr. Garg, I guess, has put a very, very pertinent question. Most pertinent. And since I am seeing most of the family faces here, so I think I don't have to go to the background about how Nepal. This is state of affairs. There have been many seminars in this hall only. I remember a particular seminar 3 or 4 years back when the then foreign secretary, or maybe he was already former foreign secretary of Azerbaijan, Mr. Shyam Sharan, had made a very positive note about what is going to happen in Nepal. And I also was given some time to intervene. And I remember vividly, if some of you were there, I had warned about the kind of path he's going to find himself after 3 years or so. So this is the situation. The situation begs for the exact question that Mr. Chairman has asked me. Are they different, and are they not different? Since some of us have come from socialist background, and even those who are not socialists are familiar with the great world communist movement, great social democratic movement of 20th century. In fact, whole history of 20th century can be written in terms of the ideological war between the social democrats and the communists. I'll take a little later, back to that. Everyone knows, whoever is interested in any kind of socialism, that before 1914, before the First World War, there was no difference between Lenin, who came to found communist movement, and social democrats, chief among them Kautsky and Albert Bernstein, not to mention others, on any question of strategy and tactics as such. Lenin was at pains to justify his position by quoting at length Mr. Karl Kautsky. Lenin's most famous book, What is to be Done, has been prefaced by a quotation from Kautsky. Kautsky was the doyen, the theoretician of Second International. Now, the Nepalese Maoists have two distinct lines in which they are based. One line which believes and only believes in the forcible capture of state in order to go ahead towards classless state. And they are very sympathetic ideologically, very sympathetic otherwise to the Indian Maoists here, who are fighting in the jungles. Have no illusion about that, and they make no bones about that. If you read their daily newspapers, if they read their mouthpiece, which is being controlled by this faction at the moment, the daily newspaper of Maoist is known as Janadisha, the mass line. If you read the news there, every news hails, expresses solidarity with what is happening in India. Openly, loudly and clearly. And that is the faction controlled by Mohan Vaidya, Badal and Vikrama. I hope these names are familiar with this. And there is another faction, led by Prachand and Bhagwan, who say, no, we have no other option but to join the so-called mainstream for the time being, with the qualification for the time being. But the qualification is often a consequence. They are ready to be domesticated by whatever is known by parliamentary democracy. Very willing, very happy. They are ready to be co-opted, whichever system is there in international communications, whatever we call it. We'll come to that later. So these two trends are very much there, very visible there, and they have to engage with and they have to contain. The problem with Indian establishment is, I'm calling it establishment, first of all, it has monopolized all initiatives in Nepal. It has become its problem. And number two, when an Indian establishment, or for that matter, any establishment monopolizes policy initiative, what happens? You have seen the huge failures of Americans, or Russians for that matter, in Afghanistan, by the Russians first, and USA today, in Vietnam, by the French first, and the Americans later. So, I think Indians are Indian. When I say Indian, I don't mean my friends here in this room. I mean the official Indian position, whatever is that, whatever I haven't given to understand. And being a member of Constitutional Assembly and senior member of the Nepali leadership, I think I do know a facet of what Indians are thinking at the moment. And every time I see Indians, please understand, I'm meaning Indian establishment, since when I say you friends are Indians, right now I have different percent of that. So I'm again thanking Vijay Pratap Ritu, for giving me this opportunity to talk to you friends, face to face, straight. So this must not be lost sight of about when you are talking about Maoists. There are serious cleavages, divergences, and differences of opinion among the Maoists down to the grassroots. That's what matters. Now there is a very, very myopic view of the struggle. They say, oh no, they are fighting only because they want to have a greater share of power, greater number of concessions. I think that's totally mistaken notion. First of all, there is a logic in every revolution. That immediately after the revolution, the leaders of the revolution do fight, and they fight in a very sanguine way. I don't have to remind you French Revolution. That's slightly away, further back. But Danton and Robespierre and Marat and whatnot. You can very happily remember Trotsky and Stalin. What happened in the wake of Russian Revolution? Mao Zedong and Li Shaoqi. What happened in China? And it was very sheer good luck of Jawaharlal ji that Patel ji passed away. Or the 52 election would not have seen Jawaharlal at the helm of affairs. Everyone knows that. And in Nepal also, there have been 3 major changes. And every time, the fratricide of Nepali Congress has undone it. Immediately in the 1951, the two brothers, Matrika and D.P. Gorla fought. And fought to the end of it. They destroyed the system. In 1990, Girja Koirala and Ganesh Man Singh, then later Bhatrai and Girja Koirala fought. I hope people remember that. And they gave the whole power in the hands of India. And now, if Prachanda and Mohan Vaidya are fighting fiercely, they no doubt, they know nothing to doubt about the authentic, genuine fight they are conducting. So, whoever thinks that they are going to be domesticated, lock, barrel and stock, are going to be very unhappy very soon, eventually first of it. And even if the present leadership, including Mohan Vaidya, are coming to the parliamentary mainstream, the rank and file of Maoist is not going to come which what I have told today. Why? Why they are not going to come? What is the ground reality otherwise? What gave rise to the Maoist? What was the index of unemployment, illiteracy, poverty, resource distribution? Every fundamental data of society is same that was there 20 years back. As long as you have dirt, filth, unimaginable filth and dirt at your backyard, can you wish away the existence of mosquitoes? So thanks to globalization, thanks to deepening poverty in the deeper pockets of Nepal, Nepal is not going to have a very peaceful year ahead of it. So, irrespective of what Maoists think of this problem today, Nepal is going through a very serious, intense ethnic struggle, caste struggle, regional struggle, and last but not least, class struggle too. So, this is my perspective on the Maoist today. And my complaint here is, there seems to be very, very shallow understanding of this reality. Oh, ho jayega, ho jayega, ho jayega. It looks that India is at the moment at official level dominated by people who initiated the so-called peace process. And now they don't want to be seen as having had failed. So they are telling everyone, no, there is no problem, oh, they are very good people, they are very nice people. The same thing Shamsaran has told me in this very office some time back. The same thing you will hear from whoever is somebody in the policy forum of Government of India today. And now the question, shall they go to jungle if they don't come to mainstream? No sir, please take note of it. They will not go to jungle, they will come to India. Why should they go to jungle? So there is a they say, oh, well, will they go to jungle? No, they will not go to jungle. Why should they go to jungle? What they usually say. And my friends in Nepali Congress find it very convenient to understand. Yes, they will not go to jungle. Why should they go to jungle? They have such palatial houses, they have such good cars. So I am always at pains to remind them, what makes you think they will go to jungle? In jungle, some people will always be there who will fight for them. But they will come to India comfortably. Maybe this time they will not go to Delhi, They will not go to Calcutta. They may go straight to Adivasi area. So take note of that. Why should they go to jungle? Neither I would go to jungle even if I am fighting guerrilla war anywhere in the world. So they could come here. Please keep comfortable, and you have many interactions with them. That is very important. So this is my what they call prognosis of the Maoist movement. Anyway, so what does it amount to? Not only Nepal, South Asia is in for big convulsion. I hope I am not sounding Castro-like, but you have seen in this country only the 7 months back or 8 months back. He has today become rather, for some regions, not a very serious force anymore. Anna Hazare. Anna Hazare has almost, I will not say shattered, almost made the minister tremble. And forget Anna Hazare. Anna Hazare was rather serious system. It is a serious system. Even Baba Ramdev. Ramdev had challenged the parliamentary system. Let me qualify it. So-called parliamentary system. Because everybody was 16 sevens. The seasoned and veteran diplomats like Pranab Mukherjee was going to welcome him out of where? So what is the essence of that? How does this system run? And what is the resilience of the system? I don't want to be unkind to Ramdev. Someone like Ramdev can challenge. Then everybody agitates. So what is the system? So because the system that we have created here, we were discussing in the Shura some time back, I guess, or some kind of Shura some time back. In Swaraj, for most of the modern people are very, very archaic. The fact that most successful democracy in third world, or most thriving and progressing and prospering democracy in South Asia, that is India, in the world and South Asia, has the feet of clay. There is for you to see, everyone has to see. So I think what is happening in Nepal is just an eye-opener for everyone who wants to be some kind of, who want to be in the train of, in the bogey of some kind of change, and also those who want to resist every kind of change. But I think Nepal is not being taken as seriously as it ought to be, thanks to the mutual admiration society of the bureaucrats of both the countries, technocrats of both the countries, and if I may be excused, journalists of both the countries. There is always a very, very superficial reporting, and which is of course the comparison of most of the journalists. Because they don't write for day after, they write only for today. But at best for tomorrow, because after a week or so you are supposed to forget whatever you have been writing or for whatever TV and so on. So these fundamental questions, which are being debated in Nepal, are going to have consequences all over South Asia very soon, within a decade or so. What are the fundamental questions? Now let me come to the Maoist addressing. First of all, to come to Mr. Ramdev himself. Is parliamentary democracy the only form of democracy in the world? Is what Mr. Mohan Vedda and company is question. And they say no, an alternative form of democracy is possible. Well, they have no love lost for Hindu Swaraj. They know that Leninism has failed, or Maoism has failed. But they still seem to be looking for a third kind of democracy, third model of democracy. Mind it. Whatever be there, of course they are not, they seem to have come at the end of the road. They want to revive something which is not possible. They want to revive Paris Commune of 1871, somehow or other. But again, they do realize there are limitations of Paris Commune too. They refer to Cultural Revolution a number of times and its limitations. They refer to Soviet Revolution also. They say, all right, we'll get that reformed, but then Parliament democracy will not. So this is one question that is being debated there at superficial level. Second thing they are debating, what is going to be the role of Nepal and India? How is Nepal as an independent sovereign state, sovereign government, sovereign nation state going to relate to Nepal as a sovereign nation state is going to relate to India as a sovereign nation state. They have a long history behind them. All of us has a long history behind us. Everyone knows, at least for last 400 years in India, India has at one level pampered, cajoled, even bribed, mostly bribed also, whoever is ruler at the day at the moment, King of Bhutan, is very close to its establishment. But again, the worst enemies of King of Bhutan are also again here in India, sheltered by Indians, helped by Indians. I don't need to give the facts. This has happened in the case of Nepal also for last 200 years. Whichever was the king there in Nepal, like Rana Jangabal, he was in Nepal. Company was having best relations with Jangabal, but Jangabal's enemies were also here, being sheltered, protected, and fed with their hands. So they know Maoist. They know very well. And in the same trap finally fall into Maoist also. Maoists were perceived by the Indians, the then Indian state holders, as just one of like BP Kodaraj, Ram Raja Prasad Singh, or Subarna Samsir, or Bhadragali Misra, who they had sheltered in past. This time they forgot to understand, and you know, with all respect to my bureaucratic friends, they don't need to understand because they always have a very short-term view of the things. The joint secretary only views how to be foreign secretary. She doesn't need to think in 10 years' time. So they always have a myopic view of the situation. I'm sorry to be so irrelevant, but that is what my experience is most of the time. So they misunderstood Maoist as just one of the enemies of Nepalese state. Like many they have behaved in the past, they dealt with in the past. This time they failed. Maoists were conducting a battle not between war, not as two sets of rulers or two sets of dynasties or two claimant or two pretenders for the throne. This time this was a war, this was a battle, this was a fight between two kinds of social systems. And this is where Indian establishment has failed and is failing again. Maoists are not asking to be new set of rulers there. It's not like placing Girija Prasad Koirala in the place of Bhattarai, K.P. Bhattarai. It's not something like cajoling King Mahendra instead of B.P. Koirala. It's not like helping Subarna Samsir against Janga Bahag or some other Bahags. It was Maoist needing a completely different socio-economic system. They were authentic that way. They were genuine that way. So this is the second problem. Third, last but not least, do you know what are the contentious issues Constitution writing today? Contentious issues of Constitution writing today. Every constitution needs to have a preamble. So Nepali Congress has given its draft of the preamble. Nepal wants a pluralistic society, pluralistic vision of life. This is Nepali Congress position. Fair enough. The Maoist note of dissent is no, Nepal can't have a pluralist society or pluralist philosophy at least. Nepal must have a multi-party system that we accept. You write that Baudali Vyavastha chahincha. Let there be many parties, but you can't believe in the plural notion of truth. There is only one truth, Marxism, Leninism, and Maoism. So when you go by the side by the various kinds of truth, they say no. Dialectical materialism is the only truth in the world. How can we enshrine it in the philosophy of the Constitution? So they are fighting over the subtle philosophical position. And if we are bothered to read the contributions of Mao Zedong over the decades, Mao Zedong is famous for having answered some questions, some doubters and some interviews. What is the difference between you and Lishaoji? Somebody said. Lishaoji believes in two becoming one. I believe in one becoming two. That was the fundamental philosophical position between Mao and Lishaoji. So today, Mohan Vaidya says, I believe in one becoming two. So let the one Maoist party become two. Prachanda believes in two becoming one. Let the Congress and Maoist unite. Very plain. You know this pertains to what is known as fundamental logic, fundamental philosophy. So mind it, Maoists are resisting so-called joining the mainstream at various levels. Even philosophically, the rank and file are arguing philosophical questions, which the Nepali Congress leaders, my venerable friends, and of course Indian style, I say this is nothing hair splitting. But they forget such hair splitting ultimately leads to civil wars. Ultimately. because they move, they motivate, they incite the believers, the faithfuls, you may like to call fanatics, whether one becomes two or two becomes one. Marxism, Leninism believes in one becoming two. Everything has contradiction. Everything splits. Gandhism believes in two becoming one. All can unite. All can come together. All is equally welcome. Jainism believes in Syadvad. You have a side of truth. Maybe you are right. Advaita believes, no, only I am right. So these debates are also taking place in Nepal today. And they are being discussed. And I am sure this is going to have some significance to Indian revolution also at some later date, maybe after 200 years. Don't forget that. Last but not least are questions of arithmetic. Whole Nepal, whole India involved with questions of arithmetic. Whether the Maoists will get 6,500 guns, 6,500 induction in the army, or 7,000. Personally, I am disinterested in that. And I have already written that this one becoming two is more dangerous than 7,000 instead of 6,500. Read that carefully, I tell my friends. And I do my best to write philosophical answers to them. And they to write back, of course. I mean, answer my exchange. So this question of 6,000, 5,000 has interested Indian establishment very much. Indian army has close links with Nepali army, everybody knows. Theoretically at least, we may not know practically, at General Sagar may be knowing. But last but not least, these things are, to my opinion, not a primary. Again, there is the question of form of federalism. That is equally important. There are also involved questions of the ideology as well as the administrative state. There are also Maoists resisting inch by inch. And many official proposals of Nepal Communist Party Maoists have been undone, have been almost defeated with the help of those rebel Maoists in their parliamentary party, and Prachanda is not in a position to expel any of those legislators who don't agree and don't accept his whip. In fact, their chief whip by the name of their guru, who is as such theoretically nominated by Prachanda, but who never carries any whip or any order except under his own sweet will. He refuses the directions of Prachanda, as you must have heard and as you must have known. So this is another point. And so many points could be enumerated like this. But I think there is a very facile, very superficial understanding of this kind of problems in India. And why this is so superficial is because there is very less communication, less talk, less discussions among the people of the country. When I say people, people is a very abstract term, as you know. I mean those who really appreciate the supreme fact that these two countries have to work together, have to live together, have to coexist together. Because everything else may change. You may change history, but geography is very difficult to change. Only Lalu has changed geography of Bihar, the critics mostly say. Thank you very much. In fact, I'm deliberately shortening my, whatever you call this presentation, since Vijay Pradhan has asked me to be at liberty to whatever time I choose, because I would expect other interventions and like to answer at the end of it, if I find them stimulating or if I find them slightly different kind of positions.
Thank you very much, Pradeep ji. It was quite thought-provoking presentation about the situation in Nepal. It's given a new thought and new thinking about the current processes which are there in Nepal's life, you know, the writing of constitution, the Maoist thinking, how the Maoists are at loggerheads with each other, the role of Indian state in dealing with the situation in Nepal and what will ultimately happen, and the possibilities or the fears of civil war and in Nepal, and how it would ultimately lead to destabilizing the situation in South Asia. A wonderful and totally a new perspective, I would say. And from the preamble itself, the things are not in order. What to talk about the entire constitution when there are differences about the wordings of preamble, you know, how to write, whether a pluralistic society or multi-party system, or what should be the wording. Now the floor is open for, I think I would request everybody to participate and raise certain issues which you may like to ask Pradeep ji his views about how to address the situation. He presented the problem, and how do we go about solving the problem? What should be the role of the people sitting here, and what actually how we can contribute to Vijay Pratap ji has been doing from his end, meeting people in Nepal, bringing them together on one platform, airing their views, allowing them to air their views, and then giving the gist of the presentations to the people who matter in the Nepal's current hierarchy, maybe Vice President, the Prime Minister, ex-Prime Ministers, everybody. So it will be a good idea if some of us could participate and pose certain issues.
Make a suggestion. If Pradeep ji could respond to this third thing, what we could do as civil society, etc., with what you have best case scenario in mind or the worst case scenario in mind, with both or irrespective of the possible scenarios, what is our swadharma? What could we do as people? No, briefly if you could say on that, then conversation will remain focused on our role.
ये 2-3 मिनट और बोल लेते ठीक रहता है।
नहीं कुछ और बोल रहा हूँ प्रदीप।
मेरा ख्याल है मैंने क्लियरली कहा है कि पीपल कांटेक्ट ज्यादा होना चाहिए। जैसे यहाँ तो हम लोग तरह-तरह के लोग बैठे हैं। जैसे आपके यहाँ कुछ पार्लियामेंट्री फॉरेन अफेयर्स कमेटी होगा, जैसे हमारे होता है, एवरी पार्लियामेंट है सब कमिटीज है, एंड सब कमिटीज हैव जनरली a committee for attending of foreign affairs. I'm sure it is full of many parliament members, and those parliament members probably as a matter of routine ask some joint secretary or the secretary chief or NSA, National Advisor, to report to them time to time. Do you think any member of parliament in that particular committee, first of all, we don't know whoever are in the committees. So do you think they have the facts of Nepal with them? Forget what I told you at the moment. So point is, even those members of parliament, even the ministers, Prime Minister has no time, even the foreign minister has only one-sided view, one-sided information of the problem as it is. What has been reported to him by the secretary, foreign secretary, or by the raw chief, or by the whoever others are, whoever in their turn reported by the joint secretary, a joint secretary of course by a note from probably section official, or maximum by an ambassador. So what I was thinking, I'm not in any way underestimating or undermining the worth of that kind of report. You know, in a political system, bureaucracy has a great role to play. The research scholars have a great role to play, I know. But that must be complemented by, augmented by, that must be substantiated by political reality at the ground level, is my contention. Whoever is the foreign secretary has to do a certain job, has to do a very meaningful job. I am not in any way undermining his job, but the fact that somebody, excuse me to bring the name of Vijay Pratap again, who comes office every second month or so in Kathmandu, discusses with the various kinds of people, has a understanding of the grassroots level knowledge, politics, does anybody listen to him? Or further matter, forget Vijay Pratap. There are many members of parliament who have many relatives back in Nepal. There are many cross-border marriages. Does anybody listen to them? So my contention was, Nepal and India being so close, it's so mutually dependent in so many areas, they must find time to discuss with each other than meet each other, other than the so-called official means. You know, Gautam Buddha happened, so many things happened after that, somewhere in the border area of Nepal and India. So what I am saying is, power of the spoken word, that was when we were discussing things in informal way. If Mr. Garg comes to Kathmandu and meets some of us and meets some of his vocational professional friends and probably goes to a village, the kind of understanding that he will bring back from there is certainly going to improve his reporter's write-up wherever that comes to him. That is where we are missing primarily in my concern. So irrespective of what is going to happen in Nepal, for good or for bad, I think civil society group like this, organization like SAGED must involve itself more intensively, more extensively, in a deeper sense, with more sense of responsibility in person-to-person contact, informal way. That is my own contention. Second, I would say, well, I was being irreverent maybe. I am not in any way, I see the functional role of newspapers. I see the functional roles of TV also. They have a role to play with. But anyway, some serious work in the policy matters have to be done. And generally, serious works in policy matters, generally research papers are unreadable. Maybe a forum like the one created by a friend like Vijay Pratap or Garg Sahab or Sahil Sahab should try to make some papers which are not only very standard papers, but are readables also. That is my second contention. Third, I would say such forums, such organizations, maybe, I don't know what kind of place this may be expensive ones, even in a lesser place, somewhere like in Patna, in Gorakhpur, in maybe Siliguri. These are places which are very close to Nepal. For you to organize a meeting in Siliguri would not be difficult, and people can come across the border and maybe can give you the real situation there. Like, if I had time, I could give you some real situation today. Let me give you a small real situation there. I could quote the names and they would be around if I was in a specific Kathmandu. In Nepal at the moment, biggest source of employment is people going to Gulf countries. In Nepal, today all the young men, all the able-bodied men go to Gulf countries and even Malaysia has opened to them for the livelihood. Fine, fair enough. And generally what happens, they go through a middleman, a middle company, known as, what do you call it? Overseas. First of all, poor people, they try to go overseas. If they fail, then come to Delhi, because that involves some money. And going to Malaysia or going to Dubai costs a lot of money, generally about 100,000 rupees Indian currency. So mostly they are cheated, they are duped, they are looted by fake companies. They go there, they are promised a job there in computer, sometimes in a good restaurant, sometimes in but they go there and they are forced to do some very, very dirty work, manual work, sometimes tending kennels, sometimes tending boats, or for the matter. Then they return. Then they return and they want their money back from those middlemen. Police is incapable of getting their money returned. There are always professional gangsters who they go to and ask them that such and such company has robbed me of money, please get my money back. If they go to police, if they go to this instrument, the police will further take money from them. And police will take money from both the sides, like Bandarbat. So all these people have a political name. Jantantrik, Mukti, Kranti, Tarai. All of them are illegal organizations having a couple of pistols or so, who are thriving, have a very thriving business, and their real business is kidnapping or returning the kidnapped ones. So this is the ground reality in every district, every village. I can make you meet God knows how many such groups whose typical work is to do the work a police is expected to do. And our police is unfortunately, I hope there can be no worse than police in India, but it's much worse than India. Thank you very much. So this is reality what you have to know, and then see what can be done, is my position. So knowing Nepal better through non-official channels is my contention. So thank you very much. This is all.
Shravanji, Pradeep Tamtaji is here. We all welcome him. So, thank you, Tamtaji. After a long session in the morning, you are able to come back. I am very happy. Pradeepji just finished. Let's carry on the discussion. If
मेरी बात रमना जी सुनना चाहिए था. I was addressing I was addressing an MP only here. How the MPs here who are otherwise responsible people to conduct for everything, foreign policy and etc. Well, since I don't know personally how well they know the nitty-gritty of foreign policy was the discussion. The problem in Nepal, I had directed here, is in my understanding that the bureaucracy of India, whatever that means, has hijacked all the policy initiatives in Nepal. And political persons, even the foreign minister I claim, not to speak of poor Prime Minister, does not seem to have any understanding of where Nepal is heading today. He is being reported by his secretary or the NSA chief, who is in his turn being reported by the lower officer, who is in turn being reported by the officer. And there is no people to people, no MP to MP, no representative to representative contact, is my position. So unless this is done, we will have a very poor understanding of Nepal, and I have stated with 5 concrete examples the misunderstanding on the question of the philosophical debate for the writing of the kind of constitution we are going to make. I say there is a philosophical problem also. It is a question of what kind of constitution we are going to have. As the communists call it, is it going to be a bourgeois republic or is it going to be a people's republic? Is it going to be a pluralistic constitution or is it going to be only multi-party constitution? But they accept multi-party, but they don't accept pluralism, philosophically speaking. And I have debated that. I right now explain that here. Is this going to be India-friendly constitution, or is it going to be fundamentally anti-India constitution? Because that is also there in the clause of the constitution. You don't mention India, but how the rivers and how the valleys and how the export and import are going to be conducted, and how is Parliament going to ratify such as in treaties, bilateral treaties and multilateral treaties. That is part of constitution ever assumed in my country. So all these questions are being debated primarily on ideological ground. We have contention about that. Besides, there are many other questions of secondary nature, and I call them secondary nature, about how they would be inducted in the army. As every army man would say, they will be inducted in the army, they will be integrated in the army as per the norms of the army. There are true entry points in the army, as they say. Whether you subscribe to that or something else has to be done. That is also being debated. So many questions I put, but my only be all and end all was representative of the people here, of various sections of people here, right from MP and ministers to civil society, must be made to go to Nepal more often, and must be made to see the ground reality with their own eyes rather than depending on the middlemen, was my contention. Thank you very
much. I think somebody should intervene. I mean, he has raised a very valid point of
May I ask something?
people-to-people contact. Yes.
Again,
Myself, Dr. Mahendra Pratap Rana, heading one organization called Gautam Buddha Institute of Rural Development. I'm listening from the morning deliberation from various delegates. But one thing really I picked up from your deliberation, Giri sir, and that is social dimension issue is missing everywhere. And in context of India, what I would say, कि policy maker are not aware with the need of the people. What they need at the grassroots level, policy maker not aware. They are sitting in a Delhi, they are making policy for them. And what they are making, I mean policy maker, people are not aware. That they have made some policy for their development. This is the, you can say, sharp gap. So we should, here we find a big role, you can say, of people's organization, how to channelize, how to reduce this gap between policy maker and the society, need of the society and policy maker. Seconds are very interesting change, and we are very cleverly we are putting every problem in.
I would request you, if you have any question about Nepal, please address it to Giriji. Otherwise, I mean, we don't want to divert from the issue we are discussing. He has come all the way from Nepal to discuss the topic.
I have not completed. If you want, I can continue. Otherwise, I will stop here.
Please.
If you don't want to listen, then I will stop here. There is no problem as such.
नेपाल के बारे में प्रश्न था।
हाँ, नेपाल के बारे में भी प्रश्न ये है कि इंडिया के जितने भी आपके जितने भी यहाँ के लोग जा रहे हैं, सजेशन दे रहे हैं, बेसिकली entire I am talking about entire South Asian region. South Asian region is a caste-based society. Everywhere we are dealing with, and Nepal is, of course, is a caste-based society. We are dealing only in a class term. Everywhere, class term. West Bengal is a example. 35 years of rule, they have not changed anything. मुझे जो समझ में, I had been in Nepal also several times. I have seen caste problem is there, and if Nepal is not addressing this serious issue, caste issue, which India is facing from, you can say, after more than 60 years of independence, certainly this caste problem is going to be a big threat to your country, and I mean Nepal, as we are facing here. So is there any possibility to address the problem of caste very seriously rather than everything dealing in a class form? Thank you, sir.
I was very particular to mention caste and ethnicity both while discussing Nepal, and I said also class, I said. In fact, I qualified class as also. Before that I had spoken. I do understand the seriousness of your operation. And some attempts have been done, but they are not sufficient. I think caste is a central category to understand each society. I think your doubts are very authentic and should be addressed. I think will be addressed. Thank you.
Can I request General Sahgal to make some intervention?
Vijay, I saw your mail only at 11 o'clock. और I think 1:30 बजे आपने कहा कि जरूर आइए, and when you said प्रदीप गिरी आ रहे हैं, so I quickly changed my program and came to listen to him, and I always find his presentations stimulating. Let me just make a few thoughts that have arisen listening to him, because it's a subject that is of vital interest to me, not great interest. I think there are a lot of differences, and I am talking to the previous speaker also, आपने उसको सुन रहे थे, between what the Maoists hope to get in Nepal and what our Maoists are heading towards. Second major difference is the possibility of what a state can do if they want to deal with the Maoists. That thing is of the past now, because now the Maoists are the state there, or nearly so. And in India, if the state wanted to exercise violence, this problem as it stands is insurmountable, not insurmountable. The Indian state and the Indian army is not going to take that route. Mistakes have been made, people know that these mistakes have been made, and these are being challenged by civil society in India. And the solution lies in a totally different direction to my way of thinking as things stand. So this is one thing I want to say, that there is not. Second aspect, Indian policy towards Nepal. Stefani, every time you've really been, it's very illuminating hearing you, what you've said. I don't think our government and the foreign ministry, for people who take